Hi there, Mr. Bills here again. Hey, we're going to start working in color. So you should have your color pencils. You won't need all of them, but I'll go over the ones that you need. And you are going to need this worksheet, this sheet to work from. So a color wheel in color theory, as a general term, has to do with how you mix colors together, what colors you mix together, making the colors brighter and richer and duller and darker and lighter, and just a way to control all of that. You can do it with paint, you can do it with pastels. We're gonna do it in colored pencil. So what you're gonna do, sorry for the noise there, you are gonna make sure your name is on it. And first thing I want you to do, and you'll be able to see all these samples in the Google Slides, so you can refer to that to see more of the finished samples. What you're going to do first is take any color pencil, and I'm going to ask you to circle 4 of these colors. I'm going to ask you to circle yellow orange, blue green, red violet, and blue violet. Because those 4 colors, you're going to have to blend 2 colored pencils together, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Another thing about a color wheel is it's organized pretty nicely, because it has the 3 primary colors in a triangle compared to each other. So if you didn't know what the 3 primary colors are, they are red, yellow, and blue. And you can see that that's an even triangle between those 3. Then secondary colors, the colors that are in between the 2 primary colors, right in between, from both directions, are also set up in a triangle. So yellow and red equally mixed, the idea is that you would have a nice orange. So orange, violet, another word for violet is purple, purple and green. So orange, green, and violet are also that triangle. The last ones are the tertiary colors. Don't worry about that word. We're not really going to use it in class, but it's a tertiary color. And that's when you add more of a primary color and less of this primary color. So the red-orange, see, that's closer to red. The word red is first because it's closer to red, and it turns a little bit orange because you add some yellow to it. That's the idea there. So here we have blue-green. It's right next to blue. Again, there's a little bit of yellow because it's farther away to help make it into a blue-green. And what happens is the blue-green looks like it's a color that's mixed evenly between blue and green, the 2 on either side of it. So that's how this is organized and what it's for. So if you need to make a color that's kind of a yellowy green, you could refer to a color wheel and say, I need lots of yellow and just a little bit of green. And it kind of, the term itself kind of answers your question. It's yellow-green, so it's more of a yellowy green because that's first. All right, but for a practical matter, here's how it's going to work. We're going to work with that nice gradation and our nice shading rules. Okay, let's put those there. So make sure that let's start with green down here. The darker green. You have 2 greens. You have this yellow green, which you're going to use in the yellow green. Now some of these tertiary colors, there is a red-orange pencil. Go ahead and use that. There is a yellow-green pencil. Go ahead and use that. But the other ones, I'll show you how to mix. Okay, so first, we start getting dark in the center. Dark in the center, and use those nice shading rules. Use lots of circles that overlap. We want this to be a smooth color without lots of textures or edges, and we want it to be a smooth gradation. So we're going to go from dark to light, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to rush this too much to make it look sloppy, so I'm going to put it into time lapse here. But just know ahead of time that when I get it to about halfway out, nice and dark, from there I'm going to start letting it get lighter. Okay, that's the idea behind that. So we'll put it in time lapse and I'll see you in just a moment. All right, now I'm finished with the green, and do realize that I pressed really hard, like 100% pressure, really pretty hard, and just don't break the pencil, really hard all the way out to roughly halfway. So if you were to kind of chop that in half like that, you would see right about in here is where it starts to get lighter. Now it does not fade away completely. Okay, it needs to still have some color out here, some little bit of color. So if I had to estimate, I would say I pressed 100% out here and just kept, now I press softer and softer until I get to the point where I'm holding the pencil a little farther back and just pressing with like maybe 15 or 20% pressure. Okay, pretty soft, but not nothing. It should be something here. And if you see little edges inside here, and the way to prevent that, so remember, I'll just do some sampling over here. If you see something like this, where you see it dark, and then all of a sudden it gets lighter, see those two patches? It usually means you were doing just what I did. I was only working in one direction. So don't do that. Make sure you work in those little circles that overlap a lot and that move around a lot, like we've talked about in the regular shading. Look how much smoother that is. And when you do that, and as you work in that direction, and you just slowly let the pressure get lighter and lighter, and it takes a little time to get it smooth. It is worth it. It's worth the effort. The quality is worth the effort. It'll start to get a little bit lighter for you. Okay? So make sure you're continuing to use those nice shading rules. Okay, so we've got the green, and it doesn't really matter where you start. I started with green. So that's all good. Now, to make blue-green, I have to get the blue and the green, and I'd like you guys to use that sky blue color. I think that'll look good with this. It doesn't matter that much, but I think this is going to be a good color to use. And it doesn't matter which one you do first, but you have to use both. So let's do the blue first, just so it looks a little different. And what I'm going to do is, now I have to use some straight lines just to come up against the edge of the section here. And I'm going to use those circles a lot. When you do the mixture colors, the pressure you apply is not quite 100%. So it might be 90%. That'll allow the next color, the green that I'm going to put on here, to influence the color. Okay, so I'm going to work my way. I'm going to do the same thing. At about halfway out, then I'm going to start to let it fade away. And I'm going to switch, and then we'll talk about how to do the next color on top. Then I'm going to switch, or I'll switch right now to time lapse so that goes faster for you. All right, now that I finished the blue for the blue-green, and by the way, it should take you a good, 8 to 10 minutes to carefully kind of do this. You could do it in 30 seconds, but it would just be real crummy. So if I see things like this, and again, here's my little demo site over here. If I see this kind of stuff, or this kind of stuff, boy, your grade's going to go really down. It's just not going to help you. You're going to be using these techniques in some other drawings that will that'll look really good if you get good at this shading technique. And I also want to show you one thing that I'm doing that is a little more subtle. So let's say here's our little area that we're shading in, and I want to just show you that when I am working just along this edge right here, when I start to use my little circles, I try to leave that edge a little bit lumpy and bumpy. You see that? It's a little lumpy and bumpy. It's not straight across. So here's what not to do. Don't just go straight across. See, and leave kind of a flat edge like that. I'm going to try to repair that. If you make this the edge of it kind of be irregular, I find it much easier to let the next kind of set of shading, as you let it blend out, it's going to be easier to avoid those edges that we talked about a moment ago. All right, so that's another tip. Okay, now since it's blue-green, we're going to take our green, and now we're going to go over the blue. And again, I won't finish the whole thing in front of you like nice and slow like this, but I'll do the first part. You can see that the blue is influencing the green. My pressure, again, is fairly firm, but it's not as hard as I possibly can. It's still pretty dark, but not quite 100%. And then again, when I get to about halfway out, I'm going to let that also fade away. Okay, so let me finish this in time lapse, and then we'll get back to you in just a moment. Okay, I put the green on top of the blue, so now it looks like it's a kind of a similar color to this, but has a little blue influence. What I do sometimes is, I didn't do it yet because I wanted to show you. I did blue first from dark to light, and then I did green from dark to light to make the blue green. A lot of times I'll take the first color that I applied and put it back on top again. And it just kind of helps blend them together a little bit. I'm still pressing lightly out here, and I can press a little bit darker as I go in there. So that's something that you can do if you think you want to mix them together a little bit more. The more that you are true to our little circles, overlapping a lot and moving around slowly and in that spiral kind of idea. Remember, don't do circles in stripes. If you do another set of circles in stripes, you're going to get those little lines between them. Okay, so keep those circles moving around and around and around, overlapping a lot. And also, as you can see, I did the blue, because that's what you will do. And the idea now is to see that there's a close connection between these three colors. This one looks like it could be a mixture of those two mixing right there. Okay, so that's the kind of thing you're going to do all the way around. But I do want to warn you one thing. When you get to yellow-orange, now I didn't do this really because it's going to be hard for you to see it on the video. But when you get to the yellow-orange and you do the yellow first, you could cheat and go really fast with the yellow, and you can hardly tell the difference because it's so close to white. But it's really important that when you put in the yellow, again, from dark to a little bit lighter out there, you really do focus on using those little circles that overlap a lot. And again, you can't see it very much here with the yellow. Okay, I promise. It doesn't show much. But when it does show is when you start to put the next color on. So when you start to put the orange on the yellow-orange, because you can use those two pencils, and if you are really good with the shading rules here, and you are sloppy with the yellow, it shows through. It'll be real patchy and streaky with lots of little lines. So it's really important to, and I'm only going to go out a little ways, really important to go nice and use those shading rules on the yellow. I'll finish this one for you. I'm not going to finish the rest because you can see it in the sample, and I think you've got the idea. The blue and the violet get mixed here. Your red and violet get mixed here. Again, the red-orange, you have a red-orange pencil. Go ahead and use that. Remember, you have a yellow-green pencil. Go ahead and use that. That's totally fine. But I'll do this one in time-lapse so you can see how that one works, because that's the trickiest one. Again, I'm going to be real careful with the yellow first, and then I'll do the orange on top of it so you can see how that one looks. All right, now that I've finished the yellow orange, and I put a few patches, just the beginnings of some of those colors on the inside, so you can kind of start to see the differences between them. In here, the colors look more different from each other. As the colors get lighter and less intense, they tend to not look quite as different from each other, but that's just a natural thing that's going to happen. Okay, I'm not going to finish all of this. Hopefully you've got the idea. What I do want to encourage you to do over here, don't do sloppy things like I did, but if you want to, go ahead and practice going, from a little bit of a dark to light with yellow, and see how hard you need to press with the orange, and how careful you need to be, just in little patches like that. It's totally fine. It doesn't hurt your grade to have this extra stuff. Really, that kind of stuff shows me you're practicing and you're paying attention and you're doing your best. Make sure your first and last name is on this, as well as everything else that you hand in. And again, refer to the Google Slides show so you can see the more finished samples. There's going to be one more thing that we do with color theory, but that'll be in the next video. So be careful with this. Take your time, be as nice with those shading rules. Really try to let that gradation happen nice and smooth so there are not edges inside these little patches of dark to light color. All right, do a good job, try your best. We'll see you next time. I told you all throughout the video that you had to look at the color wheel sample on the Google Slides, but I can show you right here. All you have to do is look at the Google Slides and make sure you finish doing those forms first. We talked about those, and I'll show you those. You saw those either on Google Classroom or on YouTube. And then you saw this, and you saw the 4 colors that you are supposed to blend together. And I just wanted to make sure to show you this slide so you can see one finished. I know I kept telling you to look, but here it is. And hopefully you get a good sense of what it's like and you do a good job. All right. Thanks.